We now move on to the second section of this session, which outlines the methods available to monitor the system. The more the system is monitored, the better the picture of what its normal behavior will be. As with all products, the sooner potential problems can be spotted and identified, the better. The first suggestion is question every error message. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you should question every single error message that you see, but you should certainly investigate if you see a message that you haven't seen before. If you see an error reported that you haven't seen before, and it's not obvious what the cause of that error is, consult technical support. In theory, a healthy DSA should never log an error, especially an ambiguous error, so the presence of a new error suggests that there either is something happening on the system that needs to be investigated, or there's an error in our software which causes the error to be logged when it shouldn't be. Either way, the root cause needs to be determined and/or corrected. Running ODS elog in the DSA working directory will list any warnings or errors that have occurred. For each type of error, recoverable, warning, or fatal, there is an associated count file that will list the amount of errors of that type. Monitoring these files, count warn, count recov, and count fatal, for changes will help you spot potential problems quickly. Don't forget, however, that the error will remain in the error log until it is cleared, so the error you are looking at may have occurred in the past. It's a good idea to build up an idea of the responsiveness of the DSA under normal conditions by doing a simple LDAP search and recording the response time. This will help you judge if the performance of the DSA has degraded. You can also issue the same LDAP search command against the master and any shadow DSAs to confirm the DSA has been shadowed correctly. Don't forget, however, that the data will not necessarily be shadowed instantly, so any automated scripts should be tolerant of delays. Another utility that helps you optimize DSA performance is ODS Tune. This is a command line utility that will examine the system and make any recommendations that may be necessary. ODS Tune should be run after you install the directory server software, after upgrades, before and after a new DSA is created, or any time there have been changes to the DSA or the system it's running on. ODS Tune is a command line utility that is executed from within the DSA working directory, and you should run it inside each DSA's working directory if you have more than one DSA on your system. ODS Tune doesn't change the system itself, it merely suggests changes that can be made. You can run it several times to get familiar with it without making any changes to the system. Calling ODS Tune with the -L parameter will send the output to a file specified. If you don't know the answer to any of the questions asked, you can select the default answer by pressing return. Finally, after making any changes suggested by ODS Tune, run ODS Tune again to ensure there are no further suggestions based on the changed system. If you experience any errors, you can get further details on the error message by calling ODS Tune again with the error message value as shown here. ODS Fix is a utility that can help you establish the integrity of the data in your DSA. It makes sure that all entries in the DSA are structurally sound, the inversion indexes are correct, and it samples a subset of the data to ensure it's structured correctly. ODS Fix outputs the two files, a text file containing details of any problems encountered, and a Perl script to attempt to fix these problems. Please contact technical support before executing Perl scripts generated by ODS Fix. Running ODS Fix against the DSA causes overhead and may degrade the performance of the DSA. Therefore, it's better to run ODS Fix against the latest full backup of the DSA than against the live DSA itself. If you're running ODS Fix against a backup of the DSA, it's important that you remember that the semaphores must be removed or there will be a clash with the live DSA. In order to prevent this, you can just remove the file ds.k from the DSA backup directory. Generally, ODS Fix will not return any errors, but if it does show errors after the first run, where it samples every 1000th entry, you should run it again with the flag -S1. This will check every entry in the DSA, and you can then send the results through to technical support. The final utility we'll discuss in this section is ODS Compact and ODS List. Running ODS Compact in the DSA working directory will result in the removal of free records from the database, and will usually decrease the combined size of the database files and may have a positive effect on performance. However, it's not necessary to run ODS Compact as a matter of course, because those free records will be reused as new data is added to the DSA. A different way to get the benefits of running ODS Compact without suffering the overhead that running it brings is to rebuild inverted indexes for attributes. This will give you the same performance overheads without having to rebuild the entire database structure. This will give you the same performance benefits without having to rebuild the entire database structure. To identify which attributes have large indexes, you can use the command odslist -I in uppercase -s. To identify which attributes have large indexes, you can use the command odslist -I -s. To reinvert your indexes, firstly stop the DSA, then use the command ods reinvert with the name of the attributes in internal format. To find the internal format name for an attribute, you can grep for the regular attribute name in the OIDS local file. Once the indexes have been reinverted, you can start the DSA again. We would recommend that you carry out this task roughly once a month. Finally, we would like to remind you that patches are released at regular intervals and should be applied as soon as possible. Patches are described as recommended updates. You should not wait for the software to fail before looking to apply a patch. You should be notified by email every time a patch for the directory server software is released. If this is not the case, you should contact customer.services@criticalpath.net. Full instructions for applying each patch are provided in release notes supplied with the patch. At this point, I'd like to thank you all for viewing this video and hope you found the session useful. On this slide, we have a list of our corporate web pages that you might find interesting information on. On www.criticalpath.net, you can find product white pages and get in contact with sales teams if you're looking to change your DSA deployment. On training.criticalpath.net, we have our online training site where you can take the full directory server course as a series of videos. On support.criticalpath.net, we have patches and documentation for the directory server software. If you don't have an account on support.criticalpath.net, please contact customer services@criticalpath.net. That's customer.services@criticalpath.net. Thank you.